to say you don't care what anybody thinks means you're like a psychopath. So it's okay to care what people think, but you want to try, and here's the difference between okay, well, we're here. Who are you?
My name's Chad.
And we haven't seen each other in
It's been almost 3 weeks.
almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Got to go on a nice little sojourn, a little sabbatical, so to speak.
Something like that.
So we're here for a couple reasons. One, we're gonna get a workout in.
Yeah.
Two, we're gonna work some stuff out. We're gonna have a format that we'll explain here in just a minute where it would give us a chance to work hard,
Yeah.
but then also talk hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we doing?
The workout itself?
Yeah. Let's go over that. Explain it to me.
Well,
And then what do you say we warm
it's
up?
right here. So the workout itself, get that a little closer, come to the whiteboard here. So in our programming phase right now, we're making sure that every 6 days there's a power day. And so this is the power day. So every 2 minutes, if you're familiar with these tasks at all, you know that these aren't going to take anywhere close to 2 minutes. So the idea is that you get to a sprint pace. So we need to warm up thoroughly, and then when we get into it, these should be, 45 seconds or less of really hard effort, and then a minute plus of rest. So I think in a lot of training programs today, especially as people get older, they tend to get away from the sprint. But I just watched Independence Day last night.
Oh.
And the ability to sprint is something worth maintaining,
Yeah.
because who knows when the aliens are going to come back. I got a lot of questions about the end of that movie.
And then there's a camera shot
yeah.
where it's like
but
you gotta sprint
if you
for a
got to
while.
run out of the city and jump over cars and hurdle over people and bikes, you don't want to be the one getting trampled, right?
Well,
anyway.
I like this format because not only is it high power and it's anaerobic, but it's 20 sets. So
Yeah.
it's not just, hey, can you be powerful one time, but can you recover, can you repeat,
Yeah.
and can you sustain these little bursts of high power. So this will be awesome.
And just to be clear, we aren't going to be here for 5 hours. 20 sets means this is a set, this is a set, this is a set. So there's essentially 4 rounds of 5 movements that'll take 40 minutes to get through.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. It's here and start to catch up.
Yeah. If we weren't even doing this, how would you want to warm up?
I'd start with at least a minute and a half on the machine. Something
Okay.
I've liked to do recently, it's actually Ryan Blair, when he was a member, 5 years ago, he would warm up his ankles by putting one foot down.
Oh, yeah.
And you try to keep your heels down, which is pretty tough and limits your range, but it's a little easier on the low back, but also helps warm up your ankles.
Uh-huh. And if you put this one behind you, you can kind of do the splits.
Oh, that's nice too. Get a little hip flexor in there.
No, that's great.
So I'll probably go about 150 on one leg, and then I'll switch legs,
Okay.
which is in about one more pull. And then I'll go another 150 on this side.
That's
This one-
nice. I've got this one knee that's been hard to close all the way. I think it's
Yeah.
from jiu-jitsu, maybe it's from running, but this feels
Which knee is it?
my right.
Take your left foot, put your toe kind of under the foot pedal, and then try to keep your heel down as you come forward
Oh yeah,
on
that's
the
good.
ground. And so once we get to 300 meters, we'll go another 150 or 200 with both legs in and go into a full row stroke.
So for each of these intervals, did you write this workout?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Are you thinking, like, when you came up with the structure, were you thinking, okay, I'd love for 150 meters on the ski to take a certain amount of time? Or did you say, you know what, I feel like most people can maintain a high power up to that number of strokes?
Yeah, so I was thinking time-wise here. If all it was 20 sets of 150-meter ski, I would have either extended the rest time or the length of the interval or decreased the distance, because that would be tough to repeat at an all-out effort. But because it's, gonna be 10 minutes before we get back to it, you can still go pretty hard because you're going into a different movement that won't be as long. So to answer your question,
I blacked out. How long?
are we
15,
rowing to warm
15,
up?
No. Like, should it be like 15 seconds?
I think the 150 will probably take around 45 to 50 seconds for most of our people. I think for some of the faster athletes, it might be closer to 30 seconds. Maybe less, depending on your power or your form and your ability to rest and recover after the previous sets.
Gotcha.
But it should be pretty close to all out, to where when we go to the dumbbell jumps, we can still jump with intensity and get some height and not feel like we have to limit it because we're still breathing hard from something else.
Gotcha. All right, where to next?
Well, do you have any areas that you need some specific attention for a warm-up?
I'm basically like a cheetah, like I just
you're ready to go.
Just at all times.
If I asked you to dunk a basketball right now, do you think you could?
No problem.
Without hurting yourself?
Yeah, 5-footed.
I couldn't.
Well, I mean, I definitely like to warm my arms up a little bit since we're skiing. I haven't done this a whole lot.
All right. Well, let's ski some, and then let's go through like an inchworm, lizard kind of complex. If that doesn't make sense, I'll just lead you through it. You got any creative warm-ups on a ski?
I like to just close my eyes. Just go off a feel.
Imagine you're on the Nordic Trail.
Just go off a feel. I don't know. I was thinking through what you said. Like, what's nice is that these things can independently move. So maybe you could just go like one arm at a time, like hanging on to it.
Yeah.
Same thing, switch to the other side. I don't know, I've never done that before, but seems like I didn't realize this until you said it, but because in the row and the ski, both arms and legs are moving together, it's kind of nice to prioritize one versus the other.
Well, it's worth mentioning that falls in line with our core values, is to keep things fresh. But have you been cross-country skiing?
I have.
And did you ever do what we're doing right now?
No.
No. It had to be all this move right here.
But I do see some people do the ski like that, and I think, they've never pulled before. Like, clearly.
Oh, this move?
Yeah, it's like, clearly you've never had both of your ski poles and like planted them down, because you would never go like past that position.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to ski like this, but maybe the conditions were a little off, but you had to be downhill to actually get momentum if you weren't using your legs.
Yeah.
But I think that does help if someone has been skiing before. You can kind of tell them, hey, look where you're going, and they won't put their nose between their knees.
Yeah, totally. That's a great cue. It's like, hey, you would never drop your head so much that you would like hit the screen. That's currently my pet peeve in exercise mechanics, is people bragging about breaking the handle on the ski. It's like, hey, dude, you did it wrong. You're not God's gift to power output.
Yeah. Finn and Chance have gotten real good at repairing these things.
Golly.
Go to the top of a push-up.
Yes, sir.
We'll go left foot up. Drop the knee. Take the left hand up. Left elbow down. Now what you're gonna do is sit on your right heel and hit that. Nice. Now we'll go back to here. We'll go push up. And then the same thing on the right side. Rotate up, elbow down, hamstring stretch.
How's your body feeling after, how many hours did you drive?
I drove over the last 2 weeks, 92 hours. 5,100 miles.
That's pretty good.
You know, it wasn't any bad on the way out, and after a couple days, you know, I had that competition in NorCal. Felt fine. It wasn't until the way home, because there was also, you know, drove to LA, drove to Sacramento, drove to Reno, drove to LA, drove to Telluride, and after the drive to Telluride, my back hurt. And then I had a day there before I had another 15-hour drive. So my back was hurting an hour into that one.
Yeah.
Was in for it. But got here, worked out, did 2 zone 2 workouts and 1 kind of CrossFit-y workout with muscle ups and upper body. And feel back to normal.
How was Bridal Falls? Had you ever done that before?
I've heard that's a fairly new hike. Like they paved that one out within the last like 5 years or so. It's beautiful. And it was Trek's dream because there was 3 different points where you got to a pond and a waterfall.
I mean, Telluride in general is a dog's dream.
It's a dog's dream. Everyone's off leash. Everyone's just so friendly and dogs everywhere. Yeah, Trek loved that. Honestly, that trip, one of the highlights is I know Trek had the time of his life. Because he was raised out in the country. He was raised where there was open fields and water and hunting and everything all the time. The city life has been different. So to have him on that trip and be able to, like, here's the ocean, here's a lake, here's a river, here's a waterfall, here's open space. Even though he did have to sit in the car with me for all that time, you could tell a dog's like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Just even like their ear position and just even their posture with your head. Yeah, his countenance.
Yeah, a dog's countenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a great time. All right, are we ready to get into it? Should we do a couple jumps before we actually pull the trigger?
Yeah, I'm going to sub, I think I'm gonna sub dual kettlebell snatch.
Okay.
Just because I'm running a lot, the disconnection from the ground. I'm gonna try to find something that has the same hip extension without the free fall component.
You know, I might, even though it's not a rapid cycle movement, because I have some pain in my knee, probably from my IT band and the driving. I like that idea.
Okay.
So a box jump will have a softer landing than just jumping and landing on the ground with weight. So I might do a weighted box jump.
Cool.
Okay. Cool.
And the shuffle.
The shuffle shuttle.
Shuffles. The truffle shuffle.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna do that?
I think the easiest way to do that is we can use
just side to side.
Yeah, the rowers and the skis, and every length will count as 1 rep, and so down is 1, back is 2, and player's choice on if you want to touch the ground. That'll slow it down, but also force you to have power coming out of the transition, the change of direction. So I'd probably just go from ski to ski, and you can go from row to row. Is that going to be all right with your legs?
I think so. I'll have something as a backup just in case.
You could just make it low and slow and cut it in half if this is what you wanted here, as opposed to moving really fast.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so you grab your kettlebells, I'll grab my box.
Okay.
And then for the bikes too. Oh, that one's gonna hurt.
15 cows?
Yep.
So this is gonna get a little more.
It's gonna get a little
poopy.
yucky. Yeah.
Because I was thinking like some of the A+A stuff. It's like this isn't it. This is like.
This is one of the A's.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can go off that clock over there. Too crazy. Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think we're even going to be able to talk in between?
Yeah, I think if we can't, we'll make an adjustment. But I'm still gonna be like an RPE 9.
Yeah, I'm probably like RPE 8.5.
Nice time.
Thanks, dude. Good job.
All right, so yeah, that was 30 seconds. Which means we'll get a minute and a half rest.
It's probably like way more time than I need.
Yeah, if we get to a point where we're not able to talk, I think we can benefit from taking the reps down. Because
yeah, I even thought like before you explained it, like 20 seconds would be pretty capable of being consistent.
Well, that's another thing we could do is just turn all these into 20 seconds, which is, so part of the idea behind the programming is for variety, right? So sprinting all out, like if we were to do a true sprint workout, it would be like 15 seconds or less for all these, and maybe even more rest time. But we also want this to be, continually breathing hard, keeping people engaged. There's an opportunity to chat, but also I'm guessing by the end of this class, there won't be a lot of conversation going on. So if we need to make an adjustment, we will, because our priority right now is social, not performance.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to make that trade at any point.
And that's okay to have as a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, that worked out.
That's good. That's
So
good
far,
timing.
cadence is great.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
something that's a lot slower cycle time.
Yeah.
Are you thinking, well, I can't compensate by having,
Nice to meet you, Shane.
a ton of reps, so each one I've got to try to make almost like a maximum effort, like really try to extend the hip hard, even though, it's only 25 pounds.
This is going to be a revolutionary concept for you,
Okay.
but it depends. It depends. So both of us have said that there's maybe some concern about impact on the lower body because we've done a lot of impact priority training. And so one of the reasons we took away the jump, which takes away that fast cycle time, is because of impact. So this is still a way to get power without the eccentric impact and the loading.
I guess what I was saying is like these weights, those weights,
Yeah.
they're not heavy enough to demand your hardest hip extension, but you're still going for it,
Yeah.
which is the difference between strength training where it is a necessity and power where, hey, this weight isn't so heavy that I have to do this, but I'm going to because I'm trying to see how much acceleration I can have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the nature of the movements themselves. If I don't jump, I'm going to hit my shin on that. And if you don't explode, the kettlebells aren't going to fly up for you.
Oh, shoot. Oh, brother.
All right, 150. I think yours took a while to get started.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the meaning of life?
No joke. I was like, what should we talk about today? And of course, my community group is going through Ecclesiastes,
Of course.
which if you've ever read that,
yeah.
it's all about life is meaningless.
But life is meaningless. Yeah.
It's all vapor. But I think after a vacation, a break from the norm, or even just stepping into different shoes for a while, helps with a little perspective. And so I don't have perfect answers for you. It's not like I've come upon the answer that everyone's been searching for forever. The greater minds than my own have struggled to find. But like the attitude I'm at right now is it doesn't have to be that complicated. I think that it's good to jump into the weeds and explore and get real detailed. But at a certain point, you got to step back and look at the big picture. And I don't have a specific answer on what that is, but a lot of what you've been teaching us through the Institute, ideas that have come from the minds like Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
That it just starts with purpose, and when you have purpose, it gives meaning to your action.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Hold that thought, yeah.
And good, there. 2. Does that feel okay on your legs?
Yeah, it's okay so far.
See if you can stride it out, get a little more power per step. 1, 2, 3, 4. See if you can get it in 4, 2, 3. I think that was 8.
That felt like a lot. Continue. So it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Well, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it, because on one hand,
big picture stuff doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah, we can just kind of hang here and spin until it's go time.
You were saying Viktor Frankl. Keep going with that.
Yeah. So something you taught us is you got to identify a purpose. And if you can think back on, like, maybe if you don't have a purpose right now, you're having a hard time finding out what it is. Like for me, I can look back at when it was so clear. Like in childhood, you find something you like and that becomes your purpose. For me, it was skateboarding. Nobody could stop me from trying to learn tricks unless I got in trouble and was grounded. You know, I was like, I was going to...
Nobody could stop me except for my
I was
mom.
going to put myself through suffering, deal with pain, because falling on tricks hurts. I was going to teach myself to problem solve. And all of that sounds like really boring to a kid when you put him in a classroom with a subject that he doesn't care about. But a kid will also go through all that if they care about it. So that's a purpose which gives meaning to your actions and allows you to suffer well, you know? Mm-hmm. And so we could take that from skateboarding as a kid to your profession as an adult. And I'm doing too much talking right now.
That's okay, that's good. This is my plan, to just make you really tired. Ah, geez.
See that right there?
That one.
We just went from talking to, we were probably both at like a 108 for our cadence.
I was good. I was good until that one.
That's the Independence Day. Oh no. They're gonna bomb the whole city. And that's us running down the street like a cheetah, ready to go.
Oh man.
Okay.
That one felt panic inducing.
If I could ask you, because you always are going through something challenging, you're always exploring, you're creating content that's useful. People want to listen to it because it provides value. None of that stuff is easy. You also have a family and a lot of other responsibilities, owning a gym. So you're, I'm guessing, attached to a purpose. What would you say it is?
You know, I think a simple way to reduce it down is like, I feel, because what you said earlier, it's like, there's some absolute truths that I think we all can agree on. Then there's what's relative to your context and your environment.
Yeah.
As a kid, it's totally appropriate to be like, this is what I'm all about right now. So if that's a way to reframe that, what I'm all about is trying to be the best dad I possibly can be, to try to model what it looks like to live a life of adventure. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Give me like 15 seconds and I'll tell you. I might stick with like a 20 second.
Yeah.
I think one of the, and then, you know, maybe the only other extension of that, like you mentioned, is I feel so purposeful when it feels like I'm trying to teach something for really morally and ethically sound reasons.
Yeah.
Figuring and unlocking like, hey, this stuff we're doing is being communicated to the world as something really shallow and really superficial, and it's anything but that to me.
Yeah.
And so to be on a mission, to have a cause that includes almost like this crusade externally, and then internally, you know, the dad stuff, the husband stuff. If nobody knew any of that, I wouldn't care.
What do you mean by if nobody knew any of what?
I'll tell you in 15 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, back to what I was saying.
Yeah, if nobody knew any of the father, husband stuff.
I think we're social creatures.
Yeah.
To say you don't care what anybody thinks means you're like a psychopath. So it's okay to care what people think.
Yeah.
But you want to try, and here's the difference between being a caveman in the year 2024, you have the autonomy to select your tribe. And I think if you really zoom out and you think about having a partner, having a really dear friend, having a community like this, you get to select the people that you care what they think about you. And if you're smart, you'll select people that care about the things that you want to care about. So as a dad, they're the only people I care about. I care about what they think.
Okay. Yeah.
And I care very much about what they think. And so that's been a really cool intrinsic and extrinsic set of motivators, because I want to do it just because I've realized that my words will only carry so far, and it's my actions.
Yeah.
As far as these little humans that are trying to figure out, like, they're like sponges, but they're sponges for emotion. They're sponges for body language. They're sponges for experience.
Yeah.
Nice job. So that's been something that I feel like I've backed into, as far as like back to your question of meaning and purpose. And it's like, why do you do the things that you do? Well, I think it actually means something.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that metaphorically.
Yeah.
I think like, you know, the opposite of the stuff we're talking about is saying it's all vapor, dude. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
But I think when you find something, it's like, you know what? 100 years from now, yeah, we'll all be dust. But man, for the next few years, I do think this could do a lot of good.
Yeah.
And I think when you can attach yourself to that, like what I do could make a positive impression on someone else, man, that's hard to argue.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I had a simple insight this morning. And that was that we can try to figure out like what our worth is going to be eternally. And I think we all want to know what that answer is. And I think that's probably why King Solomon was like, this is all meaningless unless you do things in line with what God guides you to do. But we can also take our feedback. Like God created us to be intelligent, free-thinking beings. Mm-hmm. We're not idiots.
Defense.
I mean, we can be
Defense.
idiots. But how's that stride? How's that turn?
I'm just trying to get my long legs to beat yours and I can't.
Is that 8?
You ought to think about, you ever thought about playing like a sport? Pretty short in duration.
Yeah.
High level of athleticism. Good muscle definition, just as.
No real need for endurance.
You ever thought about playing something like that?
Thought about it. What I was saying is like we can still like acknowledge some of the feedback we get from our own thinking. And if you think too deeply, like I was talking about earlier, I think you can miss some of the simplicity, which is that some people call it the Abe Lincoln religion. When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That's also in Genesis 4, Genesis 4, where Cain's talking about, or God's talking to Cain. He says, when you do good, is not your countenance lifted up, but when you do bad, sin is crouching at the door waiting to attack. So what I mean by that is you can get to a point where you can just look at if the things you're doing are bringing joy to yourself and to others. And that's something that I think that is worth following. So if you're wondering about, is this bad? Is this right? Is this wrong? You can look at the results analytically. Like, well, when I do good, I actually do good for other people too.
Yeah.
Because I'm not all in my head about should I do this or I have guilt or shame. And so I think it's worth listening to your Jiminy Cricket a little bit, where it's like, hey, it's not just about like following the rules. It's about that you'll actually see more fulfillment and joy when you do what God actually ingrained in you that you know is good. And that I think gives a little more purpose to playing by the rules than just like following a rule book because someone said so.
Oh, baby.
Oh, that one's gonna hurt a little bit.
Oh, I felt the Holy Spirit on that one.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been thinking a lot, like, I feel like, and I don't want to lump us together, but I feel like for several years we've really valued logic and, you know, a very cerebral thought process, which obviously isn't wrong. It's like, God, don't you know a lot of people need more of that? But you said Jiminy Cricket, and I've thought a lot that there's logical, you ready for this? And then there's psycho-logical. Logical is very formulaic. A plus B should equal C.
Okay.
The psychological is like that gut feeling where it's like, I can't explain this to you, but I know it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Or you hear something, like yesterday when we did the little Zoom meeting, I felt it when we had the scorecard and we changed those numbers.
Yeah.
Like right here, it wasn't here, it was like, oh, logically those are the right numbers. It was like.
So that's the psychological.
Yeah, which is a little more, people are trying today to claim that they have logically mapped out how the mind and the gut work.
Yeah.
It's not true, right? It's not really true. We're way farther than we were 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think it's those things. How do you get somebody to change? How does somebody find their purpose? That's not a real formulaic process, right?
Right. Well, it's a moving target even for the individual.
Totally.
Like I could tell you, I want to be a games athlete, but eventually that might not matter to me. Which is the case and was the case.
I'm gonna go 20 seconds on everything.
Okay. I'm still gonna get mine to say 150 because got it. Yeah.
I'm gonna try and maintain the pace I've done, but probably stick with 20.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm not gonna be able to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, another thing, a concept that we go through a lot is like the concept of feeling stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that the approach you have that we also use is incredibly insightful and helpful. So what I'm about to say is hopefully just an addition to that. It's like Charlie gave us 8 hours of reading. And it pissed me off. I was mad. I was on vacation.
Same.
I got 8 hours of homework.
I was like, don't you know I have other things I have going on?
I didn't know it was 8 hours. Like, read 5 chapters. I didn't know each chapter was going to be an hour plus.
I know.
But fact one is that I care about my job, and so I'm going to at least explore what this assignment is. 2, I care about the prospect of our future, so I'm going to look into it. 3, once I look into it, I realize that I've forgotten how much I like learning. And even with my begrudging attitude, by the end I was like, this is sweet. Like, I'm so glad I have this information in my pocket. And you know what that did is it made me feel less stuck. It made me feel less busy. It made me feel more open to education outside of my norm, and took that feeling of stuck in like this rut of this is what I do, this is the routine for it, to like, hey, there's a whole new perspective I can bring to something I love and that I have purpose in. And so to summarize that, it's like learning something outside the norm, I think, helps people get unstuck.
I want to reflect that back to you.
All right.
I'm gonna do 8 reps and then I'll do it.
This is an effective workout.
Man, no kidding.
All right.
I'm so powerful, I'm like having a hard time recovering. Okay, so the typical process goes sensation, emotion, feeling, thought, action.
Okay.
Like pretty well documented. What you just said though is you're gonna go sensation, emotion, feeling, action, and then you're gonna tell yourself what you think about it.
So 3 steps of really emotionally based thinking.
Well, so sometimes what I hear you say is
Before action.
sometimes you just gotta get started to know what it is that you really think about that thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't even my own initiative, and that's why I was like grateful for it, because I never would have picked up a book on the most successful long-term trajectory businesses based off of their comparison to the market.
Yeah.
Like, why would I pick that book up unless I was a business owner or really wanted to geek out on the market? And it's all old news anyway, because they've already had their big peak.
Yeah.
You know? So I mean, it comes down to just being open-minded, and that, along with at least finding something you care about. There's also a community aspect to it.
Uh-huh.
So like, this is my brain going to like, well, where's the logic behind it? How can I recreate this or tell someone else how to learn from this experience? Are you able to distill it down into like you just gave us that 5-point thing on how people typically think, feel, react, behave?
Like this thing that we're talking about?
Yeah, like can you recognize the pattern where is it purpose followed by community followed by responsibility?
I don't think so. The only thing that comes to mind is just reflecting back what you said. We're really bad at projecting ahead what something's gonna be like.
Yeah.
So maybe we really should, tying together everything we said, it doesn't seem like there's a moral or ethical misstep here. If it's good for me, it's good for the people around me, and it's probably good for those that they'll interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Probably okay to get started, even if I don't exactly understand why.
Yeah.
And then we're much more accurate in looking in our rear view mirror and saying, oh, that's what this meant.
Yeah.
So maybe more often, if it doesn't feel like there's a real downside, we should just like start doing stuff, you know, maybe not keep going if we realize like, oh, this sucks, like this is a huge misstep, because I think we're prone to want to justify our meaning through suffering. So it's really easy to say, well, I'm suffering, so surely this is the right path. But it's like, okay, start it off, take a time out, determine, hey, what did that actually mean? That whole meeting yesterday, I had such a grumpy pants attitude.
Yeah.
But that's because I didn't know we were gonna come to like a much better place for the scorecard.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we were gonna say, hey, these are the values that we value in Finn.
Yeah.
Do we all share those? We do.
Yeah.
That's who our next hire is gonna be. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's like there's nothing you could have told me leading into that.
Yeah.
That would have really made me understand.
It kind
I
of
would have had a projection of it,
Yeah.
but not really understand.
Yeah. Which kind of kind of like makes me want to look through the door of, is there something we could take away from that to implement with our clients when it comes to change psychology? Because a lot of what we do and what we know to be successful is like meet them where they're at, where there's something that they are willing to do. And we're talking about something that neither of us were willing to do, but we decided to anyway because of some other buy-in or big picture, or whether it was a financial investment. It's like, well, we paid for this, we might as well do it. Or I work here, so I have to. Mm-hmm. But on the other end of it, we arrived at something we were really glad that we suffered through. So
Yeah, truly.
hold that thought.
Okay. Ah!
Oh, I'm so glad that's the last thing.
Oh boy.
Just one more round. I'm dizzy.
Oh, thank goodness.
So,
well, let me comment to that, and then you keep riffing.
yeah.
There's the stages of change model that we talked about. What you and I were talking about yesterday was not the first stage. We weren't in pre-contemplation or even contemplation. We were in preparation.
Yeah.
You didn't have to convince us that we were gonna show up for the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
We had already gotten that far. We could already see ourselves sitting there, doing the things, and we probably ought to reconcile, hey, it's gonna be a waste of our time.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, the magic is if somebody can't even see themselves, what could we do to warm them up to the idea of just taking a step?
Yeah.
Action dispels overwhelm. How could we conjure up even just a very fuzzy, low resolution picture of this thing, them getting started? And I think that's why the celebration is so important, whatever they do.
Yeah.
Because it's a way to look back and be like, hey dude, that was way better than you thought it was gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm just gonna do one more round of all this.
Okay. My question is, oh, we're up. Hold that thought. It's almost like I saw this coming. Jeez. So you said, maybe use a different term, but there was a buy-in to start. Like the action had already been decided. Is that what you said? Like for us going into that meeting, even though we went in with a poopy pants attitude, we were gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because there was a buy-in, a sense of responsibility, a sense of commitment, pride, maybe even.
Other people.
And so if we were to put ourselves in the shoes, like we don't work here, we didn't pay for this, we don't know the other people on the Zoom, probably less invested, probably don't actually receive the benefits that Charlie had to offer. And so with a client that's like, maybe their only buy-in is, I want to be able to run a mile in under 8 minutes. Is there a way where we can take our experience and put it in a box, package it up for a similar experience in that journey, in that endeavor?
For somebody else?
Yeah, where it's like maybe not such a big picture, but they still have come to us for some kind of change.
I'm gonna think about that for like 15 seconds.
Okay, you just go through like 8 reps.
Okay.
I'll slow down. Okay. I'm done with those.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do that again. Maybe it's like, what's up, Tony? Maybe it's like any good. Make sure you don't get this guy on camera. He hadn't signed a waiver. You got to pay for that. Maybe it's like any great guide.
Yeah.
You ever thought how much more Snape could have helped Harry Potter? How much more Obi-Wan Kenobi really could have fed him the answers?
See where you're getting at? Yeah.
How much more Gandalf can be like, dude, Mordor's right. Just go like straight there, dude.
Well, yeah, but the thing is,
hop in my two-wheel.
if I'm picking up
buggy.
what you're putting down, that ends up making them the hero of the journey, where we don't see Luke and we don't see Harry, or we don't see Frodo become the hero because someone else held their hand the whole time.
You know, we talk about the hero's journey. There's a book, it's called Save the Cat. It's a screenwriting book. And this guy has broken down this story. Taking 15 seconds. he's broken down this story into 15 beats. And a necessary like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beats before the person does anything that you like feel like you want to watch, is it has to become clear in their mind why it's absolutely necessary to do that. And that's the part that's like so painstakingly slow, and that's the psycho of the psychological. It's like, man, we don't know how long it's gonna take. That's why it's magical every time someone's like, hey, I just decided I'm gonna stop drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, somewhat it's formulaic, because like, hey, you hit a really low point, but we don't know when that's gonna come.
Yeah.
So as coaches, I think it is our job to really try to figure out what stage they're in, and talk to them like the hero would need at that beat of their story. Obi-Wan talks way different to Luke in Return of the Jedi than he does when they're on the, the ship in New Hope.
I watched your podcast today on the 6 things a coach shouldn't say. I was like, dang, I do like 4 of those. So if anyone did watch that and they're like, man, I did most of those, it's okay. Like, I could see where those scenarios have led towards maybe not a great interaction, and still some that there was empathizing, like sharing your story. That's what I'm guilty of. No surprise, that's my feedback from the staff. But
well, you know where those 6 came from? They're all something I've been a repeat offender of.
Yeah, sure. This will be our last effort, okay?
I'm gonna do this one.
Yeah.
And then I think I gotta pull the plug.
Okay. But still, it's like, with everything we've talked about, really what the summary or the thesis I'm
put a bow
seeing
on it.
Is that we don't have to rush to a conclusion for our clients. Like, we don't have to handhold them and tell them this is exactly what you're supposed to do. It's a give and take of putting them in the driver's seat, to use your words, that allows them to decide this is something I can connect with and I want to do. And then it's our job to see if they're taking that path or if they're going the right direction, whether it's a straight line or not, and to just be there for asking them good questions and giving them answers that provide them with their own catalyst.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to, if you know it's ethically sound reason to get started. Nothing wrong to get started at the same time that you're working out what the reason is that you got started.
Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feels fine until you stop.
Yeah,
that's a true sprint.
Yeah.
I think that.
What was your cadence?
I got up to a 1440 watts.
Man, that's crazy. I was like 1460.
Yeah. What was your cadence?
1460.
I got up to a 110 on that.
Oh yeah, I was like
111.
11. We were super close. I was just like,
nice. So to come back to where we started with this workout, were you still able to sprint at the end? Like same relative effort? And even though it felt harder, well, it should, because we've been training for 40 minutes, but we still were able to preserve that effort. So there's a lot of questions from membership that are good for them to ask, like, hey, that's gonna take me more than 15 seconds. Does that make it a sprint? And my answer as a programmer is, sprint can mean that you're just going faster than you normally would. Like,
That's a great point.
Is your effort a little higher than it would be if this was 5 rounds for time or 4 rounds for time? And without question, yes, went way harder. I would never try to do that on a bike. And when it came to the last round, without rest, I couldn't do that on a bike. So even though it's not a pure sprint prescription, I still think it checks the box on power. And shoot, burned probably more than 400 calories.
Yeah.
At least. So
I think you said something really wise, that sprint is you're going faster than you normally would go. A very easy way to explain this to a 10-year-old. I want you to be able to go faster than you normally would go for 40 minutes.
yeah.
Is that what we did, 40 minutes? 20 minutes?
Yeah, 40 minutes, yeah.
Time flies. Oh, man, anything you want to, I feel like you did a really good callback to what we talked about, but
Well,
anything you want to close with?
any of those areas of concern feel better, worse, the same with the impact?
I feel fine. I feel like they may not have picked up on this, but some of those were taking me north of 30 seconds. And so to your point, to maintain what I felt like was a faster pace than normal, I took it down to a 20-second increment, at least for the ski and one round of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that allowed me to finish with good form.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a few different ways that you can get clued into you've gone too fast. One, this guy's a nice little reminder, you know, if heart rate's in zone 5 and it stays there, if you can't recover in that interval before you start, hey, it's an indication that it's not going to continue to somehow magically go well for you.
Yeah.
But even more experiential than that, I felt my form breakdown in the ski. And even, I think, on the shuttles.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I'm not going quite as fast as I was.
Yeah.
And so I think doing enough of these workouts, that was the first clue. It's like, okay, check your ego. Who cares if Chad beats you? I mean, that's really what was going through my head. It's like, who cares if the camera catches that he's finishing 5 seconds faster or whatever. But
Well, lucky for you, the camera stayed on the opposite side of our monitors the whole time.
Good. Yeah. So who's to say we didn't row 110? No one's the wiser.
I think it's worth tacking on that, like, we do customized group programming, and one of my goals as a coach is to, not because I want to shirk the responsibility, but I want my clients to have autonomy. Like, to imagine if we heard 2 of our members have this conversation, like, hey, this is what coach programmed for me, but my coach doesn't know that I slept for 8 hours last night, and I'm probably like a little more primed to rock and roll today. And so I'm gonna make sure that I hit all of these in under 30 seconds. And I'm gonna go with a heavier weight and drop higher. And then another client would be like, well, my coach doesn't know that I slept 6 hours and I had a hard conversation with my mom last night and I'm a little stressed today, so I'm gonna just keep these at 30 seconds and not look at the screen. Like, that would be really cool to have our members get to that point.
Yeah.
But even still, that's what we're here for. It's like, if my member's gonna reach out and say, you know, this workout today looks a little outside what I can do, I'll have feedback for them. And maybe it's not jumping right to, now we are pros in performance, so I could give them something like, I know this is right for you, and I don't want you to try to figure this out on your own because X, Y, yeah, I just had knee surgery or something. But just another opportunity for us to guide them towards an autonomy that shows them value and more control in their life.
Yeah, really well said.
I would like to know your bow that you want to put on the psycho-logical conversation we had.
I've been thinking a lot about that. I think we're on the right track here. I think all the stuff that we're talking about, how do we hybridize stuff that is a little more formulaic on the gym floor, but how do we just appreciate that this is a really complex individual that we're dealing with? We don't know everything about them.
Yeah.
We can't possibly, even if they reported everything before workout, that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of like who this person is or what they're thinking or their ability to perform. So I think that we're headed down the right path of travel with the coaches that we want to be. But I have such an addiction to try to figure things out and figure it out quickly. That I think this thing that we're talking about, the mystical, the magical, the psycho, is just going to take like a lot of reps, a lot of looking back and trying to verbalize what we just experienced with this person.
Yeah.
And to have a healthy amount of grace and a healthy amount of patience for both the facilitator, the guide, the coach, and the person that's, trying to do the best that they can.
Yeah. As a part B summary, because a lot of this conversation, I'm also trying to figure out, I've got like 4 or 5 one-on-ones after this, or most of them are on the floor, but there's an element of, let's talk about life.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to like prepare myself for how can I provide them with something that is meaningful. And the thing I'm arriving at is, and people use the term imposter syndrome a lot, like if you feel that uncomfortable feeling like you don't have an answer and this person's waiting for one, the humble approach is to be patient with yourself and with them and to keep asking questions until you find an answer that both of you are comfortable with.
Yeah.
Instead of just, because the imposter would jump out with a solution that wasn't well thought through.
And that's not really for them, that's for, it's for us.
Yeah, well, it's both, you know, like jumping to a conclusion without thinking it through and just feeling like, well, I got to cover my ass because I'm the pro here, I think, and giving them an answer doesn't help or serve either of you. Where being like, hey, could you explain that a little more? Or what do you think your actual problem is with getting good sleep? And having that explored a little more before you're just like, well, have you tried melatonin and tart cherry juice before bed? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all that to be said, thank you, because I do feel more prepared to work with my people today.
Well, dude, I feel like, I feel like we worked some stuff out, and what a great exhibit A of, I could have had all those conversations with just myself and my journal. But think about the conversation we just had. I didn't answer any of your questions. All I did was try to reflect back what I heard you say, and then it's like I said a statement that I hope would lead you to say a statement.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me saying, well, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, is how like probably most conversations should go.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you guys.
All right.
Till next time.